Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 405, Friday, April the 20th, 2018. Uh-oh, that's Friday 420. So for you 420 fans out there, Friday 420, I imagine at 4:20 in the afternoon it will be 4:20 on 420, and Friday, that's probably a good day for you folks, so enjoy that. But yeah, let's enjoy this Friday. As we say where I work, happy Friday. And hopefully you guys are having a good Friday. We're starting off with a pretty good Friday today as we go through what's in the news. Of course, the big information of the day is the following. Inspector General Horowitz has made a criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney on Andrew McCabe. McCabe's lawyer says the referral is unjustified and that he spoke with staff members of the U.S. Attorney's Office and that he is confident that no prosecution will happen unless there is inappropriate pressure from the administration. Well, there's a few things to dig into here. First thing that jumps out at me is we can see exactly how McCabe's attorney is going to play this in the court of public opinion. He's going to do what Democrats and people on the left have been doing in light of the fact that they know indictments are coming. They're going to play it like Trump is Hitler. He's using his administration and the DOJ to go after his political opponents like Stalin and Mao and all the rest of the socialist dictators. That is not going to work out because ultimately the IG report is going to be made public and there will be people covering the trials. The truth about the crimes that were committed will come out. The propaganda and rhetoric can only carry you so far, but once the facts start coming out, it will change everything. And this defense attorney, this attorney for Andrew McCabe, will be so busy trying to defend his client that he won't have much time for more of that media stuff anyway. He's going to be quite busy. But just the fact that he says that he spoke to members of the U.S. Attorney's Office and that he is confident that no prosecution will happen unless there is inappropriate pressure from the administration. Now, there's another problem here, which is the very fact that this attorney for Andrew McCabe says that he spoke to the U.S. Attorney's Office already, and that they've already said, oh, well, we're not going to, bring any charges or anything like that unless we're pressured. Now, come on. First of all, they would never say that. Second of all, if this was learned that some U.S. attorney told McCabe's lawyer that they had no intention of prosecuting the case even before they'd received the case or the evidence, they would probably be in trouble and would have to step down themselves, the U.S. attorney. It just doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Now, there is a backstory to this, and that is that this criminal referral is not something that just happened yesterday. We heard about it yesterday. Apparently, this criminal referral, the decision was made about 3 weeks ago when, well, it was made known 3 weeks ago to McCabe and his lawyer. When the IG made this determination, we don't know. But we know that 3 weeks ago, when the IG was meeting with McCabe and his attorney, they said, oh, well, we plan on filing a criminal referral with the U.S. attorney based on this matter. So they knew about it 3 weeks ago, that there was going to be a criminal referral. Just that it took a little time for Horowitz to get the criminal referral into motion, and then for it to work itself through the process, and then for it to become something, a known fact, so that it could then be released to the media. So we're learning about it today, but actually this happened 3 weeks ago, and that's why as soon as McCabe's attorney was told by Horowitz that they're going to do a criminal referral, he probably contacted someone at the U.S. Attorney's Office to try to plead his case, which I assume you're allowed to do that, but I'm very, very surprised that the U.S. attorney made any comment at all to him, and maybe they didn't. Maybe this is, again, just, McCabe's lawyer trying to, work his client's case in the court of public opinion. It's hard to really know sometimes what the truth is with these attorneys, because they themselves engage in a lot of half-truth type things, speaking. The first thing that popped into my mind this morning, because I heard about it this morning, as soon as I got in my car and turned on the radio and headed to work, I heard it on the radio. So my first thought was, it's funny, yesterday we reported on the fact that McCabe's attorney had come out and essentially called Horowitz a liar, because he came out and said, hey, yeah, Horowitz put in his report that my client lied 3 or 4 times, and that Comey didn't know about the Wall Street Journal leak, but my client says he knew about it. He was informed on several occasions, and he's got proof. And like I said in the video yesterday, apparently Horowitz gave them the opportunity to produce the evidence to prove that, and apparently the evidence they produced was not good enough for Horowitz to decide with them. He decided against them. He decided that, based on the evidence he saw, that Comey did not know about the Wall Street Journal leaks. Now, if something changes, if McCabe can actually produce that evidence, or someone else can produce that evidence, that would be, something else. And that will change things drastically. But it still won't save McCabe. McCabe still participated in it. The only thing is, was Comey with him or not with him? It doesn't help McCabe any. I mean, his case is where it is. So, anyway, this is kind of the backstory and what's going on here. But like I said, McCabe will be the first person prosecuted. And I think as these IG reports come out and the criminal referrals follow, I think that you'll see more and more people indicted as we move through the process. So we'll just have to see where we go from here. The U.S. attorney is going to look at it. I find it nearly impossible to believe that the U.S. attorney can look at the crimes that McCabe committed and that he does not prosecute. Because Flynn was prosecuted and Papadopoulos was prosecuted for making false statements. Here we have Andrew McCabe making false statements on at least 4 occasions, not just to the FBI, but to the Inspector General. And this is just one element of many crimes that McCabe is going to be caught up in. This is just the beginning. McCabe's going to be facing possible criminal liability for all the other things that happened that he was involved with. So it's just the beginning. And let's keep in mind, as I've said many times, Inspector General Horowitz is the custodian. His job is to clean up the mess that Comey and McCabe and Lynch and Obama and all their friends created. We've also talked about the fact that this is personal for Horowitz. He was blocked by the Obama administration and Eric Holder in the Fast and Furious investigation. He was blocked from pursuing that. Sally Yates blocked him from looking into the DOJ NSD, which he complained vigorously about. Sessions revoked that, so now Horowitz has been able to go as deep as he wants to go into the DOJ NSD, and we know that's where all the secrets were being kept. That's where the crypt was, where all the bones and body parts were, and Horowitz has been all over it. For months now, he's been in the DOJ NSD. So keep in mind, Horowitz's job as the custodian is to clean up the mess. His job is not to protect Comey, McCabe, Lynch, Yates, or any of these other people. His job is to protect and, in this case, restore the integrity of the Department of Justice and the FBI, which falls under the Department of Justice. That's his mission. That's his objective. He knows that both have been harmed greatly from all the shenanigans that went on. So his job is not to protect Comey, Lynch, McCabe, or any of these other people. His job is to protect the institutions, the DOJ and the FBI, and that's exactly what he is going to do. He will have no problem serving up some heads like Comey, Yates, and McCabe, if that's what it takes, along with Get Back Loretta Lynch, her head too will be on the chopping block. So let's not forget what the role of the IG is and what his motivations are and what his personal issues are with how he was treated in the past. He's definitely loaded for bear. And we saw just from the report on McCabe that he is giving he's giving us the lowdown. I mean, he's not really pulling any punches. He told us exactly what happened with McCabe. I don't see where he tried to cover up anything. He pretty much gave us a report that laid it out. And I expect we'll see the same throughout as he lays out his reports. And of course, we can see now that he absolutely will follow up. Generally, he comes to Congress after he releases a report and he writes a letter of recommendations. And then he comes to Congress and testifies and they ask him questions. Was kind of surprised to see that he would turn around and issue a criminal referral on his own right. So now we have these members of Congress yesterday issuing a criminal referral, and it's followed up the very next day by the Inspector General. Now that's just a matter of timing, I guess, unless the Republicans who did that knew that this was Horowitz's referral was coming out today. Maybe they wanted their referral to beat his referral. I don't know. But either way, we now have a criminal referral by the Inspector General and by the Congress. So I don't see how any U.S. attorney can look the other way and not prosecute, especially in light of the crimes. And there'll be many more things coming down the road for McCabe. He has got a long road to hoe in the next couple of years with all the various criminal activity he was involved in. This is just the beginning. And we haven't even found out conclusively whether or not he altered 302s. If he did that, that could by far be the worst thing he did, and that absolutely would get him criminally prosecuted, seriously prosecuted for some serious time. That is a flagrant violation and extreme violation, obstruction of justice, and many other things as well. Abuse of power. That's a long list of crimes just for altering one 302. So there is where we stand. That should put a smile on your face, everybody. We're winning. I told you. Just stick with me. We're going to win. I told you this a year ago. You remember a year ago how tough it was? It was a one-way street back then. It was all Mueller all the time. And the special prosecutor and the Trump-Russia collusion. And we couldn't get any of this stuff out or investigated. We were pulling our hair out. But now look where we are. Things are now moving very, very quickly. We just need to keep the faith, stay focused, and keep our eye on the ball. And right now, Mr. Horowitz is the guy doing the pitching. Trump adds Giuliani to his legal team. Very good move. Here's why it's a good move. Giuliani knows everybody in the Southern District of New York. He was a prosecutor. He was a mayor. He was a very well-known prosecutor. He took down a lot of organized crime in New York. He knows how the tactics of the people like Mueller. He knows a lot of these people on Mueller's team, and he knows Mueller very well. I don't know that they're friends, but they're good acquaintances. They know each other very well. And Giuliani says his goal is to negotiate an end to this investigation within the next 2 weeks. And he's very forceful, and he's a tough customer. Giuliani is a tough customer. And, you know, looking back on it now, man, wouldn't it be great if Giuliani would have been Trump's pick for Attorney General? Because the Rotten Reverend would be in prison right now. Because nobody wants to lock her up like Giuliani. There's something about Giuliani and Clinton. I don't know what happened, when it happened, or how it happened, or whatever. But, boy, there's some bad blood between Giuliani and the Clintons. And I don't know what happened there, but man, oh, man. Good to see Giuliani. You know, maybe Rosenstein will have to go and Giuliani can replace him. Maybe Sessions will go and Giuliani can replace him. That would be fantastic, and it would be the end for the Clintons. Because I'm telling you, Giuliani would be on the Clintons like white on rice. So anyway, Giuliani added to Trump's legal team. That is very good news. And not a lot of people in New York will mess with Giuliani. Like I said, he knows everybody. He knows everybody, and he's got a lot of dirt on a lot of people in New York too, by the way. And a lot of these prosecutors and attorneys and things and such. So, yeah, Giuliani is the right man when you're dealing with the Southern District of New York. when you're dealing with Mueller, people like that. Giuliani knows how to play hardball. He faced off against a lot of mob lawyers who threatened his life, threatened his family. I mean, he's tough. You're not going to scare Giuliani away. Not going to happen. It was also reported today that Rodenstein, in that meeting with Trump last week, volunteered to Trump that he was not a target of the investigation. Well, that's what Mueller said, but he also said, but he is a subject of the investigation. But that doesn't mean he couldn't become a target tomorrow, does it? I don't trust Rodenstein as far as I can throw him. Now, he may be totally legitimate and just telling Trump that to make him feel good. I don't know. He may have said that to try to save his job, which he believed he might be fired in that meeting. He thought maybe Trump's calling me up here to fire me, but I don't know what's going on with that. But it could also be that that Rodenstein wants to soften Trump up and get him to sit down with Mueller. I don't think, now that Giuliani is in the mix, I seriously doubt if you'll see Trump sit down with Mueller, especially with Giuliani in the mix, because I don't think Giuliani would have Trump sit down with Mueller under any circumstances. I can't imagine that, and I think that deal's off anyway. But we'll see how Giuliani does. And as far as Rodenstein is concerned, I don't think he's going to be around very much longer either way. But I don't trust him, and I don't really care much for this story. Telling Trump he's not a target. Yeah, well, I wouldn't read anything into that at all that's positive. It just, it could be trickery. I mean, trickery is what first comes to mind. I wouldn't get too high on that story here on 420 if you're high right now. And some of you are probably toking one right now as you watch. And that's fine. Let's see. Well, Congress got the Comey Memos today heavily redacted. Now, I don't know if the copies that Nunes and Grassley and Goodlatte got were heavily redacted. Obviously, Nunes is head of the Intelligence Committee. He has as high security clearance as you can get. He can see everything. The Oversight Committee chair, Trey Gowdy, can see everything. I would expect the Judiciary Committee chair, Goodlatte, can see everything. Those guys have clearances as high as any clearance you can get, as high as, probably close to as high as the president or anyone in his cabinet. So I'm not sure if they're, what they saw was redacted, but I took a quick look at the PDF. It's so heavily redacted you can't make head nor tails of it. I mean, I tried to read through it, and it's just, you get 3 or 4 words blacked out for 2 paragraphs, another sentence and a half, and it's blacked out for a half a page. I mean, I couldn't make heads or tails of it. Hopefully, the committee chairs got to see a less redacted version, hopefully a fully unredacted version. If they didn't, I'm sure that's what they'll be pushing for next. It's just this game that goes back and forth and back and forth. But anyway, it shows you that, again, Wray and Rodenstein had to cave and produce those memos. The fact that they redacted the hell out of them is probably upsetting. But, again, they'll have to work around that. And they will. It'll take some time. But they'll eventually get to see exactly what is important in those Comey memos. And this cannot help Comey or any case Mueller might have been building for obstruction. This has got to really, really destroy that case, I would think. And Comey is so heavily compromised now as a witness. U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson. U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson has agreed with Manafort's lawyers that Rodenstein's appointment of Mueller may have granted him more authority than the DOJ regulations permit. Let's say that one more time, without errors, hopefully. U.S. District Judge Amy Brennan Jackson agreed with Manafort's lawyers that Rodenstein's appointment of Mueller may have granted him more authority than the DOJ regulations permit. Exactly. We covered that here about a week ago. Exactly. Rodenstein did not have the authority to grant the authority he gave Mueller. It was outside of the scope of what the special counsel can do. And Rodenstein never had the authority to grant Mueller this wide-ranging scope that he had given him. This is exactly how one way that Manafort's lawyers hope to beat the case. And they have a good case, and we can see that today the U.S. District Court judge sided with Manafort's lawyers. She didn't make the official ruling on that, but she said, yes, you make a very good argument. That's what she said. You do make a very good argument there. She will probably go in depth looking at that again, and will come back with some sort of a ruling probably in the next couple of weeks. Now, I want to deal with something that's been going on and on and on for weeks now. And this is the idea that the Republicans are going to lose in 2018, lose the Congress. It could happen. You know, it's what, 23 seats, and there's 46 Republican seats that are really in play. Yeah, it's possible they could lose half of those. It's possible they could lose the Congress and Pelosi would be Speaker again. All the investigations would be shut down. Make America Great Again would be stymied for the next 2 years. Nothing would get done. The Democrats would stonewall everything. The only bills they would pass is bills that Trump would veto. And it would be, you know, devastating, quite honestly, to the agenda. It is a big problem and it is a big concern. But there's just too many people out there saying, oh, the Republicans are going to lose in 2018. They have no chance. They're going to get wiped out. It's going to be a blue wave. Yeah, that's the same people, a bunch of left-wingers and anti-Trumpers who told us Trump had no chance to beat the rotten Reverend Clinton. Remember that? They're the same people that have given us many predictions that have all been wrong. First of all, I've been watching elections for a very long time. As many of you, you know very good and well that in the spring, you cannot predict what in the world is going to happen in the fall elections. You know, you can't make that prediction this early. You can't start making real predictions until you get into late August, September. Really, the polls begin to move somewhere around the end of September through the month of October, and then the last week before the vote, you see a lot of movement. You have to wait, and there's so many more things that could happen between now and then that could drastically change. If you look at the momentum is actually moving away from the Democrats right now. But let's keep in mind that there is a lot of other factors here that they're not considering. Number one, what if Trump has a successful meeting with North and South Korea and they do unify? They do announce a peace agreement. And Kim Jong-un agrees to give up his nukes. That alone will drive Trump's polls up by 5 to 10 points. He'll be sitting in the mid-50s, maybe upper 50s by the time fall comes around. Let's also not forget that these Republicans that they keep talking about who are leaving, these 40-some-odd Republicans, 43, 46, whatever the number is, that are leaving, they're leaving not because they're afraid that they're going to get beat by Democrats. They're leaving because they're anti-Trumpers who know that they're going to get wiped out by pro-Trump primary challengers. That's why they're leaving, because they know that they're going to lose in primaries, not because they fear they're going to be defeated by a Democrat. We also have to look at who is the leader of the Democratic Party. It's the rotten Reverend Clinton. And we just talked about the fact yesterday that she's sitting at 27% approval, with 52% people who regard her negatively. That's not good. Also, turnout is huge in all elections, but especially midterms, getting people out. Now, I think that those Trump supporters are going to come out in big numbers. I don't think they're going to sit home. But what about the Democrats? They still haven't solved the problem with the divide in their party. Do you think those Bernie bros are going to come out and vote for the corporate Democratic Party that they despise? They were convinced that after the rotten Reverend got defeated in such embarrassing fashion that there would have to be changes at the DNC, that they would have to get rid of the corporate Democrats, that they would have to stop taking big money from the big corporates, and they would have to go back to a grassroots fundraising and doing all these things, just like Bernie did it. Yeah, they're good. That loss of that election was supposed to change everything. Well, it has changed nothing. The Democrats still a corporate party, still doing business as usual. They haven't done anything on super delegates, which is a way that they are able to guarantee they get the person they want. There was supposed to be some movement on there, some negotiation there. None of that has happened. They're fighting the lawsuits against the DNC for cheating Bernie. They've never admitted to cheating Bernie. They continue to be the same old corporate Democratic Party. Are we supposed to believe that all them Bernie bros who despise the Democratic Party worse than they hate the Republicans? They actually hate many corporate Democrats worse than they hate Trump because of what they did to Bernie. Are we supposed to assume that they're suddenly going to come out and fall in line and get behind the corporate Democrats? I don't think so. And let me tell you another secret, my friends. While many of these Democrats may not want to talk about it, they like their tax cuts. And if Trump is successful in negotiating a peace between the Koreas, even the most far left-wing liberal is not going to be able to find a damn thing in the world wrong with that. I mean, they love peace, isn't that right? I mean, they knew the rotten Reverend Clinton was the war candidate. They knew she wanted a no-fly zone with Russia, which is de facto war. It's essentially a statement of war. She said she wanted to go to war with Iran. North Korea, obviously, she would have probably nuked them. So I think people fully will understand by the time we get to the midterms that Trump is not the warmonger that the rotten Reverend is, or the corporate Democratic Party, and certainly not the neocons and the Republican Party, or the neoliberals. A lot of things are going to look a lot different in the fall of 2018 than they look right now. And one of the biggest things is that by then, this entire narrative of the frame-up will be it will have soaked in to the minds of millions and millions of Americans, including Democrats. They know how dirty the Democrats are. They fixed it against Bernie. So it will not surprise these Democrats to find that the rotten Reverend and the Obama administration tried to fix it against Trump. They'll have no problem swallowing that. And believe me, as this tide has turned, as the Trump-Russia fades away, they have no case against Trump whatsoever. But now all we're hearing about is what we're going to be hearing about. Remember, the Inspector General reports are going to be coming out week after week after week, all through the spring and throughout the summer. Indictments will be following the larger story of the frame-up, the illegal wiretapping, all the other things are going to be coming out. That's all going to be used, of course, by Republicans against the corrupt Democrats, and the Democrats are going to be back on their heels. So, again, I would tell you not to worry about all these prognosticators telling you that we're going to get wiped out in 2018. It's possible that we could lose the House in 2018, of course. But I wouldn't bet a penny on it. And don't get freaked out by it. These are just a bunch of people who are trying to get a spot on TV, and they know they can stir up some controversy by coming out there and telling you this and trying to frighten you and all this. Don't buy it. It's too early to tell. Too early to tell what's going to happen in 2018. Too many things have to play themselves out between now and then, and they will. Keep the faith. Keep a smile on your face, because we are winning. One other thing. They like to go back. I heard one liberal going back. Actually, it was a liberal and a never-Trump Republican who were going back and reliving the 94 Gingrich Revolution. And they were talking about, yeah, well, the same thing happened back in 94 because you had all these Democrats that chose not to run. They were going to step down, and that opened up the door for the Republican Gingrich Revolution. You cannot compare what is happening now to what happened in 94. In 94, keep in mind, in 94, the country was furious with the rotten Reverend Clinton because she conducted a secret commission behind closed doors to give us Hillary care. And people were furious about Hillary care. It had driven up the negatives for Democrats across the board, across the entire country. We're going to pay a price for the rotten Reverend Clinton trying to sneak in socialized medicine on us without and all being done in secret. Another thing was, it was a huge couple of scandals that happened. One of them was the post office scandal. A couple of the most powerful Democrats in the Congress, including the head of the most powerful committee in Congress, the Ways and Means Committee, is the single most powerful committee in Congress. And the man who headed that up was a nasty, nasty Democrat from Illinois named Dan Rostenkowski. He got caught up in that crime and went to jail, along with some other Democrats. This scandal hit Democrats really hard But what really caused all those Democrats not to run for re-election was the NAFTA vote, because Democrats across the country were totally opposed to NAFTA. The labor unions were ferociously opposed to NAFTA. Rank and file blue-collar Democrats were massively opposed to NAFTA. But Clinton signed the bill anyway. But to get the votes in Congress, they had to twist the arms of a bunch of freshmen and junior Republicans, or Democrats rather. They had to get a bunch of Democrats to sign on to it to get enough votes to get it through the House. And so they went to all these lower level Democrats. Democrats have only been in office for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And they twisted their arms and forced them. I even remember the vote. There was at one point during the vote where the camera is panning the scene there where all the congressmen are there taking their votes. And there was one woman, I forget her name, I think it was Marjorie Mavinsky or something like that. And she did not want to vote for this, but the senior Democrat standing right next to her actually had to grab her arm and he had to push her arm up to say yay. He had to force her to vote, to cast that vote. And she was one of the ones who got knocked out because her district was so appalled that she would vote, even though her arm was forced up in the air by a powerful ranking Democrat. But a lot of these Democrats, as soon as they were forced, arm twisted into voting for NAFTA to give Clinton his NAFTA vote so he could sign the bill, a lot of these Democrats said, I'm done, I'm toast. They knew it. As soon as they went back to their districts, they caught hell like you can't believe. And they knew they were going to be challenged and defeated. And a lot of them said, I'm not even going to go through this. I'm going to walk. It's not worth it. That's exactly what we see with these Republicans who are not running again. These are Republicans who are anti-Trumpers. They gave it their best shot. They opposed Trump all throughout his nomination process, all throughout the campaign. They've been anti-Trump throughout the first year of his presidency, and now they're reading the polls. Corker knows he's not going to win in Tennessee. Flake, Jeff the Flake, knows he's not going to win in Arizona. That's why they're stepping down, along with Charlie Dent and many, many of these Republicans. They were anti-Trumpers who have been defeated. And they know if they run in a primary, they're going to be challenged by a pro-Trump Republican who is going to wipe the floor with them. And they're going to lose in embarrassing fashion. That's why they're leaving. Trump just drained about 46 never-Trump Republicans out of the Congress. Thank you very much. That's the real truth. Keep a smile on your face. Keep your chin up, my friends. Smile. We're winning, and it's 420. Finally, I had someone asked me to comment on the footnote number 17 from the release yesterday of the criminal referral. I assume that footnote is talking about the fact that Rodents may have to recuse himself because he signed off on one of the FISA warrants, and should the U.S. attorney decide to go for prosecutions or whatever, that Rosenstein would automatically have to recuse himself or be fired or step down or be reassigned or whatever. And yes, that's a point I made in the video yesterday. Rodenstein, if a U.S. attorney decides, yes, we're going to prosecute these things or we're going to investigate these things, Rodenstein would almost, I don't know how he could stay in his position when he is now the target of a criminal investigation. At the same time, he's running the special counsel, which is running an investigation, looking into the same type of things. I don't think it works. I think that he would have to step down. Finally, I'd had someone Spectre asked me to take a look at Sweden and comment on what is going on in Sweden. Well, you know, one of my favorite bands is ABBA. I love Sweden. So I'm going to do a little work on that. And probably in tomorrow's video, we're going to talk a little bit about Sweden and what's going on there. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have a good night. Keep the faith, keep smiling, and enjoy. It's 420.